Okay, everyone, we're going to try something a little bit different today. We are going to be trim, we're going to be tight with what we do, and we're going to try to give you everything that you need.
Okay, top back up.
Yep, that's perfect. In 5-minute snippets.
Larry's here. Rob's here. Sean's here.
So here's how we'll do it. We're going to go boom, intro, then I'll go to a slide so we can have that slide up. We'll get it ready.
Okay.
We'll get our stuff ready.
Okay.
And then we'll decide what we want to do.
Okay.
And we can leave it up to these guys. Guys, what do you want? What do you want to learn about first? Cutting, lighting, blending, top blenders, parts of a cigar, humidification, regions. What do you want to know? And then once we do that, we'll go to that, get stuff ready, boom, 5 minutes, rock and roll, and then we'll move forward.
I think we're also illustrating how much we plan these before.
This
is well planned.
I've got slides, I've got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
This could be really good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chop this up because people are asking on newbies. People asked a long time ago to get snippets.
Snippets, yeah. Because we're basically boring as shit. Good day, Chris Coulter. Howdy, ICC family. That's what Chris says.
I don't see...
Marty Upton is in the house.
We got a few people on Cigar Newbies here. Give me a thumbs up so I can see who's coming in.
Good evening, fellow newbies.
Man,
listen to all the planning, he said. We have him convinced.
This is for real, though. If tech works with us, this will be our most valuable show ever. Start sharing this in about 30 seconds, y'all.
Yeah. We got 11, which is basically half.
So we'll go 11. Let's bump that. Let's bump that because this is going to be pretty darn good.
Well, we just went to 10. But Yvonne's in, so
okay.
But everything's good.
45 second. This one isn't showing me who's in. Beautiful. 30 seconds. This is weird. 30 seconds to
30
go,
seconds.
And we're prepared. We have everything here that we need.
Where's
This
Magnolia?
is kind of boring. This is kind of boring.
He says Chris is asking where Magnolia is. What the hey? I would be curious where Magnolia is. I haven't talked to Maggie for a long time.
Yeah.
Wonder what she's up to. She needs to be in here. Her husband.
5,
Rocking and rolling.
3,
Humidification.
1.
First vote.
What's up, newbies?
Good afternoon.
Vietnam. This
It
is
is.
Tuesday.
Cigars 101 with cigar newbies from your friends at Industrial Cigar Company.
That's right. That's Pops.
That's my kid Brandon.
And this is going to be a different approach to what we usually do because we're going to take 5-minute segments.
Yeah.
We usually just ramble on for about an hour about other nonsense. And then we have about 5 minutes worth of good content in it.
What's Chris
This
doing?
is completely different
Screw it
because
up.
we're going to be on key today. So here are some of the things that we are going to be running through. We're going to be running through parts of the cigar. We're going to murder a cigar. Cut, light, smoke. Top blenders.
Top blenders. Chuck Clack is in the house.
Regions,
Sup, Chuck?
pairings, humidification. The first one people want to see is humidification. So we're going to put this slide on here for a second. And we're going to get stuff ready. So give us 15 seconds. We'll be right back. Okay. So let's get that out of the way there.
Okay, do this. Don't mess up my cigar.
You ready? You think you can do this in 5 minutes?
I can do almost anything in 5 minutes plus 20. Nice. It's got like a screen thing on here.
Yep. All right. We're going to
Nice.
go. We're going to
I like
roll.
that.
Okay. We're rolling. You ready?
Yeah. Let me hang my cigar off the side of the table.
3, 7, 5, 2, 1. Okay. So let's talk humidification.
Let's talk humidification.
Let's talk humidor. What's important in a humidor?
Well, a couple things. One, a nice snug fit. You want to kind of get that nice little snug fit.
You can feel when there's almost a little cushion there.
Right, right. So you definitely want a nice snug fit. Keeping in mind, guys, the outside atmosphere where that room is at, this thing is breathing. This one is actually made of cedar. It is actually a pretty good quality one, about 1/2 inch cedar. Looks like it's even a little bit thicker on the front. But this particular unit, solid top. There are some that have glass. Just keep in mind, outside area impacts what's going on.
And if it has glass, what can you expect?
Well, you can expect, well, you have less surface humidity. It looks good, but sometimes is also conducive to creating heat.
It's very, very difficult to keep a glass top humidor actually humidified well.
Right.
So if you have a glass top humidor and you're wrestling with it, just go a little bit extra.
Yep.
And
spend a little bit more money.
And what we mean by, yes. So a nicer humidor, if it has a glass top, spend an extra $50 on that glass top humidor because the seal on the glass that's your weak point.
Well, the main source of glass top humidors to the world are the mail order guys, little cigars for $39 and get a humidor free.
If you get a humidor free,
it's worth exactly what you paid for it.
And they got it for the same price they gave it to you for. Let's talk humidification and what can you use as a part of humidity?
This is what comes in it. This one actually has the beads inside of it. Kind of interesting. But it's got these little silica beads that will absorb and expand and create a little bit of humidification. The one concern with this mounted unit, some of them have, this one has beads. Most of them have that green foam material that they stick flowers in when you get a flower arrangement. It just holds water for a short period of time. It really has no control over the amount of humidity it's putting in the cabinet. You have to monitor that.
Which brings us to these. These are not microwave popcorn. They are Boveda packs. And what I like about them is they tell you when they need to be changed. Whereas this is like VCR, right? We're past the VCR technology.
Yep.
This gives you a pillow and this little bit of fluid that's in. And when it dries out, you can feel it, so you take it out and you put a new one in.
But the biggest key to this is two-way humidification. So 65%, a 65% humidity bag. You put 2 or 3 of these inside of a humidor about this size. They're about $4. If the humidor is less than 65% humidity, it will pull it up. If it gets to 70% humidity, you leave the lid open, it's hot outside, whatever, it will pull humidity down. So it's two-way humidification. Don't put a 65 and a 72 and a 75 inside there because they fight with each other. Use 3 or 4 of the same bags.
And also, when we were saying use more than less, if you have a glass top, I usually use a 72%. That's where I go to because I have an acrylic with the future. But if I'm to use something that's a little bit more old school or not quite as nice, I'm going 75% because I'm going to shoot ahead and a little bit above and know that acclimation is not quite as strong.
This is about 100 count humidor, 75 to 100 count humidor. If you're going to use cedar, the key to having success with a cedar humidor is to keep the humidor about 50% full. That gives you a fair shot at your cigars winning or at least tying in the battle for the fight over humidity. Because the cedar, the surface area that's exposed by cedar, is trying to get humidity, so it'll stay damp, or not necessarily damp, but saturated with the humidity to hold all the humidity in. The surface of the cigars themselves, if it's half full, it's kind of a fair battle. There you have an equal amount of the area filled with cigars as you do surface area exposed. If you have 6 cigars inside of this thing, you have all of that cedar that's sucking all of the life out of these bags. And when these dry out and you didn't pay attention, it's going after the next source, which is whatever humidity's in those cigars. So you talked about next level humidors.
Yep, that's right. What are we looking like over here? We got 30 seconds.
We're good.
We're good over here. Any questions?
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's what I'm curious about. Next level for the last 30 seconds is an acrylic humidor. Acrylic humidors, come to find out, don't ship well, so come get them in the store. But what it does is it gives you a dead surface so that cedar is not always pulling of your cigars, and it keeps it in a nice dead space. I've had the same 72% packs. I have 3 of these in it. It's about the same size since last September. They are the future.
Because the only thing that's getting humidity is the cigar. One of the things that Larry Adams brought up, two things. One is miserable. One, it's snowing in Missouri. That's no good. Number 2, will the green foam create mold? I have had mold with those, but there's one reason for that. And this is a side note, particularly for those of you that are using airtight coolers or are using like Tupperware. It's important that you open that and get new air into that box. If that air is in a static enclosure and it's not moving and there's no additional air that's coming in, then that will contribute to mold. So to answer your question, Larry, yes, it will contract mold, but there's a bigger issue. The issue is you're not getting into the humidor enough to get cigars out, and you're just leaving that stock standard air in there and not letting them
That's what you need to know about humidification. Coming up next, we are going to hop into the parts of the cigar. We're going to murder a cigar. Let's get this out of here, this over here, this over here. You got like a little different flow going here.
Yeah, and that was one of the things. What do you need? One of the things that was brought up was you can't use tap water. Don't use tap water. There's too many chemicals in the tap water to keep your humidifier.
Actually, I like this segment here in between. You can ask those questions.
Yeah.
And the problem is the mold spore is essentially microscopic, so you can't see the mold there until you have created and cultivated an actual little petri dish, which is your humidor. Coming up in 10 seconds, we are gonna murder a cigar so you can understand the parts of a cigar in 5 minutes. Give this a share and let us know if you dig this style. It's a little bit different. It's kind of fun.
It is also very difficult to only talk for 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we're gonna murder Chasero cigar.
We are coming
really
back.
Excited about that.
3, 2, 1.
And we're back.
And we're back. And we're talking
like
Cigars 101, the parts of a cigar.
The parts of a cigar.
So, every cigar has essentially the same parts. 1 part tobacco, and that's it.
Yes.
I mean, cigars that we really want to smoke, only tobacco.
Yes.
Right? But on the outside, what you're going to see are there are 2 elements to the construction of the cigar on the outside. This is very important for you newbies to know. You have the wrapper, which is going to make its way, and they wrap up, and it's a beautiful part on the outside. But then it goes to these perpendicular lines up here. This is called the cap. And I had a couple newbies in today, and what I had mentioned to them is this perpendicular cap line. What it's going to do is the wrapper actually stops right here. So if you ever cut on the south side, now this you can't see well, but there will be perpendicular lines. But if you cut on the south side of this, it's going to unravel that I had up previously. Make sure to cut up on the shoulder. Those are the external pieces.
Nip the cap. So not only do you have this beautiful wrapper, in this case, this cigar is a Mexican Puro. When you hear a cigar that's referred to as a Puro, that means that all of the tobacco in the cigar is from that particular country of origin, in this case, Mexico. And now we're going to apply the scalpel, and we're going to cut into this cigar. And let's just...
There we go.
Right in the guts right now.
You look like you're filleting a walleye.
Oh, I wish I was filleting a walleye.
Okay, so there are 3 parts of the cigar. Wrapper, binder, filler. Wrapper, as you're talking about, as you're showing. Wrapper, you get about 50% of your flavor from the wrapper.
Right.
Virtually no strength comes from the wrapper. And well,
I want to try to pull just the wrapper off.
Yeah, and the question is, why is that? Why wouldn't you get strength out of the wrapper itself?
There's no heavy concentration of oil in that wrapper. Well, there is concentration of oil in the wrapper, but not enough of it to impact things.
But importantly, exactly, it's not enough of the makeup of the cigar itself. The wrapper is just a wrapper leaf. It is a single leaf. Ups takes this off. It's a very, very small portion of the cigar itself.
Yeah, I'm trying to take it off without destroying it, but it looks like I'm going to destroy it. let me just get to this. The problem is I'm pulling the binder with this. This particular binder is very interesting because this company actually has a winery, and a lot of their tobacco is grown where they grow their grapes for their winery. But what's interesting with this particular cigar is they take like a roller, like a bread roller, and a rolling pin, and they wrap it with a cloth material and soak it in wine, and then they lay the binder out and roll that wine into that.
That's awesome, but it's not helping us. We're on 5-minute segment here. We've already eaten up 2.5.
So that's it. That little bit of wrapper is 40 to 50% of the flavor, and I actually caught some binder in that.
So it is a very small bit of it. That's why you don't want to look at the strength of the cigar based on the wrapper, because it's so minimal. I mean, just think the overall weight of that is
nothing.
A fraction,
It's
way less
nothing.
than 10%.
Nothing.
Right? And meanwhile, you get to the second leaf of the cigar
Look how
itself.
good that binder comes off.
I mean, this is something else. This is what we call a premium cigar because everything is nice, long leaf, beautiful put together. This is basically the wrapper's ugly cousin. And what this is doing is it is providing combustion, so it burns evenly and slowly and stays lit throughout the entire smoking experience. But it also provides almost no flavor generally and gives you a good backbone and a good structure.
Right. Now, there are some binders that are used that will give you a little bit of flavor. Cameroon, they'll do that from time to time. So this one here, this is actually has a double binder on it, so that's going to control the combustion. Some cigars will actually use a double binder. When they do that, that cigar will typically give you a very long ash. It'll hold the ash longer, and it will also burn very, very slow. Great for golf courses and stuff like that. It's going to be really, really nice. So this you can kind of pick up the texture on that particular cigar. You can kind of see this is all filler, but you'll notice it's long leaf filler. There's a cigar that Drew Estates does that is called the Factory Smokes. So they're cheap as hell, but if you want to go see what they would call short leaf filler, go get one of those and cut it open. And it is a absolute garbage bag.
Usually when we murder a cigar, it's usually a garbage bag. And as I'm seeing the quality of this, I'm kind of upset that we murdered a cigar that is of this quality. Because all of the tobacco leaves we're pulling out are long leaf.
All long leaf.
And that is a very good sign. That means all of them are going to be consistent because they're utilizing consistent measures. Just picture if you're trying to make the same cigar thousands of times, if you're taking a little bit of shake here, a little shake there, and you throw it in, it's tough for consistency. But if you grab one leaf, it's easy to make the same cigar over and over again. And that is really what makes it more human.
So here's a leaf right here, but the way that they did almost like a xylophone effect to it. So they actually took this particular leaf, and the way that this was put together was almost like in a Z fold that they wrapped that, and then we're putting the rest of the filler inside of that cigar to create that blend.
I knew I liked Chasero. I knew they were good cigars.
Look, guys, this is the first time we've cut one of these open, and I'm extremely impressed.
And you find this shaggy, just bunch of crap in there, it's not a good sign. Or it's something that if you paid very, very little for a cigar, it's something that you can expect. What are we talking about next?
I don't know, but I'm having fun with this.
I know, I feel
the construction
so bad about that.
of this cigar is spectacular.
If you have questions, feel free. We're going to kick over to Cut, Light, and Smoke now. If you have questions, ask them now, and we will get them in the intro. Okay? How we doing over there on the old...
Chuck's still watching. Is it Kaya? K-E-Y-A?
Yeah.
I said wine, and she woke up.
Wine me, please.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Cut, Light, Smoke. What are we smoking?
I don't know. I'm going to smoke a Holocho.
You are? Okay. Well, I'm going to smoke what's that, Gen 2?
Uh-huh.
Because we need to go Cut Light.
All right. So I'm actually smoking a Holocho, which leads into the June 11th blending session.
Okay, we are rolling back. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Boom! Boom! And we're back.
Awesome.
Okay, Cigars 101. We're cruising through. Thank you for everyone who's joining us. Now we're talking cut, light, smoke.
Cut, light, smoke.
And you just rolled your own cigar.
I did. This is the process that you use when you're at a factory, when you're walking through and they want to try a leaf. This was the cigar that we had just taken apart, but this creates what's called a Holocho. This is a single leaf, and
if you got pulled over with that, I swear to God.
Yeah.
Nice. We're talking cut, light, smoke. If you haven't seen the other section, watch it, which talks about, obviously, the parts of the cigar. And what we talk about is the wrapper itself rolling up into the cap line. When you cut it, it's important you stay on the north side, as I say, of the actual cap line itself. When you're cutting. When you cut it, let's say it's a straight cut, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to look at the cigar and guess how far you are, right? You look at it from the top, so that way you can control how much that cigar is making its way through. You take it right to the shoulder, just to the shoulder, cut it.
Right where it's going up.
And it should just be a very, very small amount that's on there.
Smaller ring gauge cigars, we highly recommend using a straight cutter. That would be a Lancero, a Corona, a Petite Corona, any of those. We highly recommend that you use a straight cutter. Anything larger than that, utilizing a V cutter, just a ton of sense, because that V cut comes down and creates turbulent smoke. Turbulent smoke is cooler smoke, and the flavor comes from cooler smoke. Heat kills flavor. Don't forget.
It kills flavor. Now, you're going to cut up a pyramid or a bellicoso or a torpedo. All of those can make sense.
Yes.
Or you're smoking one of those real deals.
This is from 2008. This is from the Reyes family that makes Patoro. But I wanted to show this because it's a spectacular cigar. They only made like 400 boxes in 2008. But this particular cigar has such a dominant pyramid shape. So what I wanted to show is there are really a couple of different ways. You could actually V-cut this. You could come in this straight. And again, what you're going to do is you're going to want to cut down. You'll cut down a little bit deeper on this than the normal just cutting the cap off the shoulder, because in that it makes the turn. In this case, it's 1.5 inches, so it's, I would be kind of smack dab in the middle. My preferred method, and this is my preferred shape of cigars, is what we call cutting on a bias. And what that will do is I'm actually putting the cigar in at an angle, and hopefully you guys can see this, but I'm putting the cigar in at an angle, and I'm cutting to create that result.
Now, why do you do that?
So I do this because it's going to give me more surface exposure. It's going to get us into the area where it's going to be a little bit looser. But for me, particularly, hooked up, smoke goes to the roof of your mouth, circles back around, and is cooler on your palate. Again, cool is good. If you want to have two different cigars in one cigar, flip this over and pinpoint that beam of smoke directly onto the front of your palate, and the cigar will get considerably stronger. So it is a great way to cut any of your torpedoes. Cut them on the bias.
And then once it comes to it, to keep the cool, it's the weirdest thing, but like you're saying, smoke cool, light cool. When you're lighting your cigar, what you want to do is keep the actual flame off of the tobacco itself. That heat's going to rise, it's going to get to it. When it gets to it, take the time to really toast the foot. This process called toasting the foot will make sure that your tobacco tobacco burns evenly. It makes it so when you bring it up, the cigar is virtually, really, it's pretty much lit. Mm-hmm. You just bring it up just a little bit, couple puffs, and you're off and rolling. The more you toast the foot, the less you have to bring that butane, that stuff that's cooking off, into the cigar itself, meaning it's going to be a cleaner smoke all the way through.
Mm-hmm. You want me to light this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just because.
One of the things I want to show is how far away you can be with this. So I'm just getting this warm. I'm not hammering it like this. So I've got the foot toasted. Watch there.
Now, mind you, they made 400 boxes of this in 2008. We're just,
yeah.
Is that good?
It's, feel how toothy that wrapper is.
Holy sheep shit. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's hop into regions. So if you have questions, cut, light, drop them in. I'm sure most people who are watching.
Brian Burnett had a great, Brian's on a budget.
Yeah.
So what he does, he buys cigars, cuts them in half, and then smokes one half. Yes.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's what he says.
No, it's an option for you.
Do that.
So
I'm going to smoke this out.
We're going to talk regions. So if you have questions, drop them now. Let's see, what's a good regional? What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Who else is in? Good to know. Rarely straight cut a Lancero. Yeah, I'm basically always on a straight cut on the Lancero.
Any of the smaller ring gauge stuff.
If you're over here watching us on Newbies, welcome in. I can't see you. Maybe give us a shot. Ooh, we got Mark Meyer coming in.
James, a shout out to our friends at Gold Leaf Cigar Club down in San Antonio.
Nice. That's good. Okay.
It's Jay's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Let's talk regions, shall we?
Let's do it.
We're talking regions. Now, we've got to be very global here, and we've got to be pretty much broad brush this, because we've got 5 minutes to talk through regions, and you could literally talk hours on each individual region.
Yep.
What are some of the main growing regions of tobacco that we have in cigars?
The Dominican, Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica. Then you can talk about areas where tobacco is grown and sent to those areas in order to have the cigars put together. That would be Pennsylvania, Connecticut. It would be Connecticut seeds grown in Ecuador, which is very popular. A lot of wrapper is grown in Ecuador. Mexico, obviously, and Indonesia, Sumatra.
There are basically, if you follow the equator around and you're inside the tropics, the closer you get to the equator itself, you're going to find yourself in this beautiful area of where tobacco is from. Now, most of the cigars that we are smoking today are coming generally from a few different areas. Tobaccos are put together, but as far as manufacturing goes, you have Nicaragua, Dominican Republic. Let's just talk about that. Nicaragua. How would you describe Nicaraguan cigar?
Let's say it's a Nicaraguan Puro cigar, there are 3 primary growing regions or 4 growing regions in Nicaragua. They all are at different elevations. They all have different flavor characteristics. But in general, that tobacco is typically heavier, oilier. The pH in that soil is very intense due to the fact that it's a volcanic area. So the soil is very rich, very nutrient rich, and in an aspect of the volcanoes. The other part of it is there's a tropical season, which is typically mid-May to October, where it's just raining, and they grow coffee at the top of the mountains that are feeding down into the valleys where the tobacco is grown. So a lot of the nutrients from the coffee areas all wash down into the basins and kind of recycle and kind of bring that that land back to life.
Absolutely. And if you are a whiskey drinker, especially a higher proof whiskey drinker, Nicaraguan cigars may match what you're looking for. On the other side, actually not too far away, but on the other side of the spectrum, I believe, would be Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Dominican itself, again, its pH balance is a little bit different. It has almost more of a tropical island element to that area, particularly where a lot of the farms are closer to the north side, where the north side heading down towards the beach. But their tobacco is a little bit more mild, and typically will have a little bit of spice, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of white pepper, but not as heavy and oily as what you get with Nicaraguan
To me, I get more flavor, more of the actual pronounced flavors that are, the intensity pulls away so you can focus a lot more on the flavor. Those middle strength or medium strength cigars that you can think of, even mainstream, you think of the Fuentes of the world, think of the Davidoffs of the world, and on the boutique side of things, you think of the Principals,
Patoro.
There are a ton of phenomenal manufacturers coming out of the Dominican Republic, and they've also, within LFD, La Flor Dominicana, have found a way to give very oily, very rich, very flavorful tobacco coming out of there as well.
Right. The oldest cigar factory in the world is in the Dominican, which is the La Aurora factory, and it's I can't remember the name of the port we went to. I want to say it's Punta Cana. I don't know if that's it. But there was a port that we stopped in the La Aurora factory is there. It's the oldest factory in the world.
Now, an up-and-coming country, I don't want to necessarily say it that way, but in our world that we live in, the American market, particularly within boutique cigars, a country that is really kicking ass and starting to get a name for itself is Mexico.
Mexico, for sure. But we just saw the quality of the construction of the cigars.
Got it right.
But Casa Torrent has been farming since 1880 in the San Andreas region. For years, you would hear Padron, Maduro's has a San Andreas wrapper. They just never completed that sentence. It's the San Andreas wrapper that comes from the San Andreas region of Mexico. So where Mexico got kind of a bad rap because of all the fake Cubans and everything that people were exposed to, and then the Te Amo, which was more entry-level cigars, but really a cigar that was manufactured for the Mexican marketplace where people couldn't afford $10 cigars.
Yep.
So the Te Amos made their way to the United States because it was inexpensive.
It's a new world. It's a brick house. It's a fill in the blank of what it was. Unfortunately, between the amount of fake Cubans that we've bought in Mexico and the Te Amos, they went through a dark period. There are some kick-ass cigars coming out of Mexico. Some of my favorite, to be honest. And then on the other side of the world, we have Indonesia and the Asian countries and the Asiatic tobaccos. Now, those are generally very flavor neutral.
Right.
And very often used, as we've spoken about before, you have the wrapper, which is used for the flavor, and then underneath there is the binder, which is used for combustion and construction. These are tobaccos that are usually a little bit smaller with the leaves. They're not quite as flavorful, but they get out of the way of the wrapper.
Right. Super slow combustion rate. There is one country that we did just fly right over that makes spectacular cigars, and that's Honduras. Honduras is manufacturing some phenomenal, there's incredible tobacco coming out of there. And what makes each region different, Cavalier, what makes each region different is the natural pH balance in their soil. Cuba is like no other place in the world. Honduras is very unique. Africa, where the African Cameroon wrapper comes from, very unique. But in the Honduran factory at JRE, the Uria family figured out how to make Honduran tobacco grow to simulate the African Cameroon perfectly. It took them 14 years, but they were able to get Cameroon to grow in Honduras and taste like African Cameroon. African Cameroon by nature is a very citrusy floral intake, but behind it is pepper. It's like the flavor of a jalapeno is great, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that was a hot sucker.
Yep.
So Cameroon does that. It's just very difficult to recreate that flavor in other countries. So there are a lot of product. Our Gen 2 Lancero that Brandon is smoking is actually a Cuban seed grown in the Mexican San Andreas region of Mexico.
And if you want to know,
unique.
and if you want to know about Cuban tobacco, watch our entire Cigars 101 that we did, and we covered about an hour and a half worth of just Cuban tobacco. It is in the experience and everything through. Those are some of the broad-stroked, painted generalizations of countries.
Two things. Let's talk about the United States. Connecticut, we know about Connecticut shade wrappers. We know about that Connecticut, that light wrapper that's typically found on more mild cigars. But there's also a Connecticut broadleaf and a Pennsylvania broadleaf. Those typically will get shipped down to Nicaragua and wrapped around the body of a cigar that's already got a lot of strength. But then they take that really oily tobacco, that broadleaf tobacco that comes out of Pennsylvania and Connecticut. There was a great shortage of Pennsylvania broadleaf. So many companies were using it, but the issue that you have is a lot of those farms in the United States that are growing broadleaf, they can either get one crop of cigar tobacco or they get 2 crops a year of cigarette tobacco. So they take the money and run.
And not
so it's hard to
only
get that.
Just think about how incredibly consistent the climate is in those more equator or the tropical countries. Now look how much it changes up.
Yeah, it's snowing in Missouri.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. Next, we are going to talk about top blenders, and this is going to be the most biased segment that we've run through.
It'll be very biased. We got a bunch of guys coming in. What's up, Pops? Brandon.
What's happening? What do we got there? Is it true that China is going to have tobacco imported and rolled around? Yes, they do that now. They purchase a hell of a lot of tobacco. That is especially.
That's just one of a million reasons we need to pay attention to China, but
yeah,
we won't get into the political aspect of this. Johnny Goodner is watching. Golfer extraordinaire.
Is he a golfer? Is he a good golfer?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an average golf, he's pretty good. But his wife got her hip replaced, so we know everything about our customers.
Ready? Let's talk top blender, shall we?
Do you want to, just before you do that?
Yeah.
This is one of the most amazing cigars ever. Retro that.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah,
Wow,
that's an
that's
distracting
right.
cigar. Okay. In 5 minutes, let's talk blenders, your favorite blenders, why they are, and what makes up an incredible blender.
Are we live?
Yeah, no, we're live.
Okay, good.
We got 5 minutes.
My favorite blender is one Nelson Alfonso. Nelson Alfonso is starting to blend cigars. I gained such an amazing level of respect for him, not only spending time with him in Cuba and seeing the impact that he has in the Cuban marketplace, but as a blender when he came to the show with Crux. So tell him that story.
So I'm in the Crux booth, IPCPR, for the release of the new brand. He comes up, he tries a cigar, he looks at the packaging. That's not necessarily the point. He smoked a cigar, smoked it blind, never heard of Crux, didn't know anything.
Nope.
He started telling me where the tobacco was from, and he didn't say Nicaragua. He said Jalapa. Yeah, Jalapa's the wrapper. Okay, he started naming off the different parts of the cigar, and then he said, tell these guys that if they would let their Jalapa, whatever it was,
right,
age another 6 weeks, then it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
What he didn't know was, because of the rebrand, we had to get stuff ready for the trade show, and we had to pull production 6 weeks early to get to show at the trade show. So he was right not only about the exact tobacco, but also exactly how long the tobacco was young.
And here's why I respect him. He doesn't use Nicaraguan tobacco in his cigars, but he knew the regions. Now, the other thing is I have the utmost respect for the guys that put together amazing cars and race cars. My dad being one of those that builds racing engines for cars, and there's that person that has to have everything perfect. If Nelson was putting a car together, it would be a Ferrari, and it would be perfect. Yep. He's the only guy that, they actually have a high scrap rate, that when they take a cigar and they put it in a draw tester to ensure that it's perfect, that the air is flowing through. They do this before they put a wrapper on. They put it into this device, and if it's typically a range of 40 to 60 psi of air that flows through, 40 being loose, 60 being tight, as far as they're concerned, or the other way around, tight would be less airflow. That air coming through to them is acceptable. You put it in the rack and they set it to have the wrapper put on it. He sets his PSI tolerance of a 2 PSI range that cigar has to land into, because he believes that oxygen flowing through the cigar impacts the flavor. Too much oxygen or not enough oxygen can change the flavor of the cigar from what he wants. And when you want to be that precise, and there is no precision in rolling these cigars, it is almost the luck of the draw, because every cigar leaf is a different thickness, and it's going to wrap differently. But that is how meticulous that he gets with his blending. Plus his blends are, to me, are fantastic.
They're phenomenal. On the other side of that is tight, precision, perfect. On the other side, a blender I truly respect is Edgar Hoyle.
Yep.
Edgar Hoyle, where Nelson may be the guy who's fine-tuning and making sure all the bolts are straight up on the Ferrari. Edgar Hoyle is the type of guy that'll take a 64 Impala with the wheels falling off. He'll slap some wheels on, bolt it together, drive down the road and go, holy shit, I can't believe that thing worked.
Yeah, yeah.
His blends, he utilizes tobacco that's got more body, more earth, more rigor to it. And I think, to me, I gain so much respect because he can see through some of the strength and be able to. It's one thing to have real stuff that's got more earth and body to it,
right,
and to be able to blend that in such a way. Edgar Hoyle is a killer blender with one shot, one kill.
The one thing that I've found with a lot of these great blenders, and there are several, by the way. I think Willie Herrera is a fantastic blender. I think that Pete Johnson has a great vision with Tatuaje of what he wants cigars to do, and he really trusts the folks at My Father, Don Pepin and Jaime Garcia, to come together and make his dreams come true. But Edgar is one of those guys that, you're right, he has the ability to take young tobacco and put it together in a cigar and take a puff of it, and for me, my eyes will water and it just tastes terrible. But he has this way of knowing what it's going to taste like when it's finished, and he can get past that. To me, that's still so apparent when I smoke a young cigar that I just can't get past that flavor. But it would be like a chef tasting something, and it hasn't all come together, but he knows how it's going to come together,
where it's going to
work.
And
I'm stuck on, no, that piece didn't taste good. Yeah. And for him and for a lot of these blenders, they can get past that, and it's an incredible talent.
Could not agree more. And you see this with the top lines. The top lines in our humidor are there because the personality's there, the product is there, their process is together. But importantly, these guys know their stuff. And when you know your stuff, you can't fake a good blend. Even if you have really good tobacco, and some blenders have said that. All you need is good tobacco to make a good cigar. That's not the truth.
Nope.
I mean, you can't take good jelly and good steak. Well, maybe that could work. Even maybe that could work. But
steak's always good.
You have to know what's going to happen. The Hogan's with Crux.
Right, very good.
Darren Chaffee has a palate that I've never seen before. And you look at some of these incredible blenders, it's all about their knowledge of what the tobacco is going to be, not what it is. It is.
And it's just that talent to know how to put it together, and in what order you put those leaves in there, and where you stage certain leaves at the foot of the cigar or at the cap of the cigar. that makes such a difference in the way the cigar smokes. We smoked a cigar the other night that Darren Chaffee did from Principle. It was a cigar it's not really available. It's called the KBF Gold Connecticut. But this particular cigar, I was smoking it with Dave Wagner. We smoked through the first, let's call it third. And he's like, there's nothing, it's pretty passive. So then I go, but watch. And this thing takes a turn. And it goes from a 3 in strength to a 6.5, 7 in strength like this. And it's just, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what happened? But it comes at the right time.
Yep.
And it's just, it was just an amazing experience. He was pairing it with a particular port finish scotch that, a Dalmar that he said was just, it made the scotch so much better.
Which is perfect to get into our final segment, which we're going to talk about pairings. If you have a question about blenders, toss them in now. We'll check them out on the turn. Yeah, when you find that perfect pairing, when you find the way, and there is just that. I smoked that. I smoked a black and gold with some sipping tequila this weekend. Oh my God!
I'm telling you, I am so excited about this deal that we're gonna do. I don't want to get into. I want to experiment with it before we start talking about it. But now that we have the source to identify the pH, this is gonna be.
Oh
fun.
yeah, it's gonna be a blast. So, you want to talk about pairings?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about pairings for things that I drink, since I don't drink alcohol. I'm going to talk about the stuff that I do drink in volume.
Perfect. So
And that coffee.
Coffee. Perfect. So let's talk pairings
Let's
now.
talk pairings.
And you're going to talk about the stuff that you know about.
I'm going to talk about the stuff I drink with cigars that are going to accentuate the flavors, potentially cancel out some of the flavors so that some of the background flavors can come up front. I drink coffee. I probably drink too much coffee, but I drink coffee black. I like what we use. We have Distretto, which is a local coffee roaster that roasts a phenomenal blend just for ICC, which was Mexican Dominican.
Mexican Nicaraguan.
Mexican Nicaraguan, 50-50 blend of that cigar or of that coffee. It is incredible. With the right cigar, the cigar and the coffee flavor and the tobacco flavor actually neutralize each other. And I have found one cigar in particular that is magic with coffee, and it is the La Coliacion from Crown Heads. That particular cigar, I don't know what it is. I suspect that the pH of that cigar, and it's a Nicaraguan cigar, but the pH of that cigar and the pH of the coffee is dead nuts on, where it literally scoots all of those flavors away and lets all of the background notes of the coffee. And I'm talking about the background notes are a 2 and all of a sudden they're an 8. They're so apparent because it's like the two counter each other and let everything else dance. And it is, when you hit that pairing, it's like magic.
Here's a magic pairing for me. Chocolate milk. And I see it catching on. I'm glad more and more people are drinking chocolate milk with a cigar. You get the lactose that sits on your palate and it holds it there and holds the chocolate on there. You get the chilled drink of a cold chocolate milk, which mitigates the heat of the smoke itself. And then when that heat does come in, it almost seems as though it crystallizes the sugar that's on your palate. So you get something, any cigar works well with it. It is a fail-safe.
Yep, absolutely. I drink soda, but one of the things that I love to pair with a great cigar, usually a darker cigar, is a really high-quality root beer. Just the flavor that's left behind, that the cigar just kind of scrubs some of it and just leaves that sweetness, and that ends up being accentuated. So I'm a big fan of that. Of course, there's a lot of spirits guys on here. There was this old theory of you pair dark to dark, light to light. But then Edgar was talking about how he does a contrasting pairing. So he's going to do a dark cigar to a light wine, a white wine, or a lighter spirit to create that counter. So one of the things that we learned in the sommelier class for tobacco, try to pair point to point. So let's say the pH balance is a 6. You try to get a cigar that's a 6 pH balance and a drink that's a 6. But the example that they use of contrasting flavors would be, from a pH perspective, tomato soup, grilled cheese sandwich. Those two have totally opposite, but they go together. Right. So I think that's where Edgar kind of takes that contrasting method as his favorite.
So a good rule of thumb is you want to go very similar or very far apart. You don't want to half step that. So if you go with a very high proof bourbon or something that's got some bite to it, go with a cigar that also has bite, so that way they can combat each other in the areas where they need it, and they can come to life in the areas where they don't. And then on the far side of the spectrum, a heavy steak dinner where you think you want something very heavy, take it with a nice mild cigar afterwards.
Yep.
So go really far apart, or if you really want to do it right, go with, that's exactly right, Socorro tequila or any new aged sipping tequila that has that butterscotch sweetness, and use a Mexican San Andreas wrapper which has chocolate to it. That is the peanut butter cup experience. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I think there's my go-to every day is Diet Dr. Pepper. You get the cola, which is great, but the tobacco kind of scoots the cola aside and leaves that cherry on your palate. It's really, really nice. Sean Ratz is talking about his makers. He likes the Maker's Mark. Looks like SSW Club Pick, and let's see, and he's pairing it with Principal Black and Gold. So, you know, one of the things that we're in the process of doing is developing a database. I'm not going to go into the details because there's a lot of testing that has to happen, but we're actually going to develop a database that will be a pairings database. And what we have to do is be able to identify what the pH levels are of everything, and then we can recommend something that's point on, what I would call point on. If they're both a 6, they're both a 6, but also be able to identify contrasting so that you're a long ways away, but maybe help you avoid a 4 and a 5 that might be enough that throws off that flavor when you pair it together.
So look out for that. That is going to be a massive project in which will...
But nobody's ever done it.
No one's ever done it. We're going to try something completely different. That will be the perfect pairing sheet for you. And that will... This is the first time we're really talking about it, but that is going to be... That'll pop back up a long time from now. And you'll be able to see it.
No, but I'm excited because it's one thing to have the idea. It's another thing to have the method to get it done. And lo and behold, one of our members is a freaking scientist at UNT, and he has all the equipment to do it.
That's going to be awesome.
Now we're just going to have to get guys like Sean Ratz that have huge collections, or Rodney Smith with SSW, and have huge collections of liquor that we're just going to have to be able to, you know, stick that sensor in there. But then at that point, of course, it's contaminated. They'll have to drink it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
that's our final push there. Does anyone have any questions? What do you think about that style? Oh, what do we put that for?
Well, you asked me to get cigars that we like.
Oh, because I was going to go through top blenders. But we just kind of blew. That just turned into kind of the Nelson.
I'll tell you what. If we're still talking about, now we're on the pairings, but I'll tell you, Sebastian does a great job working with Plasencia down in Honduras. This is the Cavalier line, and he does a great job.
And it's stocked back up today.
Good.
I'm smoking the Series 1, and very good.
Really?
Very
Still
good.
strong?
No. It's like, it reminds me of a Bolden Bear.
Okay.
That cigar should be super strong,
good,
but it isn't. It is very nice.
Okay, good.
And they use San Andreas Maduro, I think, for the wrapper, and Ligero on the inside.
Right, but he's using Honduran tobacco with a lot of that. So
yeah, if you haven't smoked a Cavalier for a while, come back in and smoke them, because boy, they are. I was expecting that to smoke young, and it doesn't.
Well, they've been waiting a long time to get stuff out of Honduras.
What do we got?
What's up with the latest event at ICC, including SSW? Talk about it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. In about a week and a half, what we have coming up, sorry for the added noise here, but in about a week and a half, May 1st, it's a Saturday, we have the Derby event for the Secretariat launch. Now, what's interesting with that is it is our second project in collaboration with Some Would Say Whiskey. Woodford Reserve is stepping in, Principal Cigars is stepping in, and this is going to be an event that is not only going to be, it's going to be indoor-outdoor.
Yeah.
So those newbies or anyone who would like to come, but maybe your wife or whoever doesn't want to be in a cigar lounge, it will be indoor-outdoor. We actually have a tent that will be in the back that will be block party. We're blocking the road off, and the tent will be bigger than, it's going to be monster.
Yep.
$30 ticket. $30 GA ticket will get you barbecue from Mark Sheeran, who is an absolute pitmaster. Pitmaster. It will also get you access to a bar with mint juleps and the whole deal. Dress up, derby, seersucker, hats, the whole deal. And it's going to be an all-day party, bottle share, and the drop of our secretariat pick that we did with the SSW admins for a Woodford Reserve ride.
Yes, some of the ICC Bourbon Society guys were in here. The SSW admins were in here. You guys worked through 6. Oh, we also had Steve Miller, who is the head writer for Cigar Snob magazine, attended that night.
Yep.
And you guys went through 6 different, 3 Woodfords and 3 Woodford ryes. And one of the things that Johnny Goodner said, he's got a great palate for the rye. The worst rye was better than the best, just straight up bourbon.
It's phenomenal. It's a part of a kit that will go live to the public. If you have a ticket and you buy a ticket, you'll have access to this kit ahead of time. On Friday, they're all going to sell out if they're not already sold out now. But that ticket or that kit is going to get you the bottle of rye, actually a custom blended mint julep syrup. So all you do is add the rye and a little bit of mint, and then you're set. It will come with an 8-ounce deal of that. It will also come with the copper mint julep mug,
right,
and 3 Principal cigars that have never been released that have spent the last
2 months
in the actual rye barrel. That is going to be a part of the kit.
Yeah.
If we're talking perfect pairings, that's going to be one of them.
I would think so.
And
these cigars themselves are larger than this, which is they're actually all Gordo, 6x60, 6x58s. So the last time we did them, they were smaller cigars. These are much larger cigars, and they are sucking up that whiskey.
It is going to be incredible. But that
event it's dressed to impress.
Yep.
Hats, seersucker, the whole thing.
The whole deal. So
highly recommend you Uber
in or Uber out. Please Uber out if you need it. We'll call an Uber for you for this. It is a bottle share. It is going to be a blast. We will have tickets at the door, a select few if it does remain. But since it is indoor-outdoor, we will have a little bit more space. It'll be $40 at the door, $30 ahead of time. Just bring it.
It is going to be on. Chuck Clapp, thank you for your kind words. Expect to see him here because that dude can dress.
Oh man, the guy's got style.
He has got style.
The guy's got style. What can you say?
He does.
Well,
so what did you guys think of this format?
Yeah.
Did you guys like the format? Let us know what you guys think. We appreciate you guys. You know that. But we always want to try something different and mix it up. And hopefully there was some good information jammed inside those little 5 minutes. You know, it illustrates that it's virtually impossible to talk in 5 minutes.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. We had too much to say, but I'll tell you what, I wish there were a lot of these left.
But they're not. Look at that.
God. This thing is just, I mean, you can 2008, 2009 in the box. So we're what, 11, 12 years?
Jesus.
It's just spectacular.
It is. I'm surprised you were able to
Age is your friend in cigars. Trust me. Age is your friend. And you want to get something that is, that sick period is way in the rearview mirror. You just don't want to mess with it.
Next week we can talk about aging. We can talk about aged tobacco, pre-roll, post-roll, the difference of a cigar. Like I have some original house. I think I have an original house, so we can smoke that.
I have some.
A new one. And we can go through some of that. If you want to join us, let's bring one person on.
Let's do that.
If you want to join us in here for the aging comparison, we're going to do some stuff. And here's also what I'm going to do is I have a couple cigars that have been out of my humidor. I want to see what happens when you have a cigar that's been out of your humidor for a week and then when you smoke one straight from the humidor, can you tell a difference?
Yeah.
And how quick the humidification dries out.
That's a great point. And while we're talking about these, it's little segments, but it's something we can definitely talk about next week. But this is just it's just food for thought, because it happens. You'll throw a cigar in your console, you'll forget about it, it sits in the car for a week. Oh shit, what do I do? The basic rule of thumb is, for every day that your cigar is out of your humidor, it needs to sit 2 days in your humidor. So if it's out for a week, you have to put it back in your humidor for 2 weeks to let it regain its balance. So cigars can be brought back. We have cigars that are over 100 years old in our humidor, and they've been perfectly humidified for, I know, 14 years, because they were 10 years perfect. But the key is just remember, if you had a cigar that was out for a day and it did start to dry out, throw it in your humidor for twice as long.
Yep, and it's not going to dry out for a while. So we'll run through that next week. But until then, post up on Newbies, invite your friends, and we really, really appreciate you helping us live our life.
That's it. Yvonne says she's keeps carting